entrepreneur is not the boss. 9 to actually it wasn't even 9 to 5. It was like 9 to 3 a.m.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany, and I am a Year 12 student at BSJ. I'm part of Imokita, a passionate social enterprise committed to helping students determine their best fit career path and preparing them for life outside of high school. Today's session is one of many that we're hosting to give students a chance to meet professionals from career path that they may very well pursue in the future. So if any of you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to type it into the chat and we will be answering them during our Q&A session at the end. So this is the link where you guys can access our Instagram, website, and the schedule today that is also in Firefly. Please be aware that this meeting is recorded. So with that said, allow me to introduce our very esteemed guest, who is an experienced entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of working in the food and beverage and management consulting industry. She's skilled in strategic planning, business development, and modeling, and she has a MPhil degree focused in management from the University of Cambridge. She also has strong initiatives and strong interest in sustainability. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Melissa Kowara. Thank you so much for being here today. Can you start and elaborate on the work you do?
Yes. Originally, I had thought that I should prepare a deck talking about what it is that I did traditionally, more with the entrepreneurship, the restaurants, the whatnot. And then I saw Imulkita's post that says activism under my name. And then I got confused. What should I talk about? And then now I kind of want to know, actually, what you guys are interested in listening to, even. So perhaps if it's okay, I'm just going to do a brief summary on what it is that I do from post-graduation till now. And then you guys can tell me what you want interested to hear more about, because they're so different, each one. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, great. So I think, well, some of you probably heard from the first session as well, but I graduated with economics and management. So growing up, I thought that my goal was to make my $1 million in the beginning, like as soon as possible, like before 25, whatever. And so my first job career was strategy consulting. And strategy consulting, it was a prestigious boutique company in London. And then we worked in short projects with private equity companies to do due diligence on the companies that they want to purchase or merge and whatnot. That one was very, very career oriented, super corporate, had 9 to, actually it wasn't even 9 to 5. It was like 9 to 3 a.m. at sometimes because it was all about deadlines. So it's like, if you have the deadline, then you just gotta go with it. But of course, like afterward, it's a very work hard, play hard culture where Friday drinks and they will just splash on like, oh, here's 100 pounds per person or whatever. Actually, no, that wasn't that crazy. No, I exaggerated that part. Sorry. But it was work hard, play hard. And then afterwards, I decided that this was not for me. And then I entered a stage of a lot of entrepreneurship. Started helping my friends build online applications. So it was a phone app in nightlife industry. So we had an app called Sinden. And it was a directory of all the clubs, all the bars around Jakarta. And you can book tables, you can get events tickets and get like deals for drinks and whatnot. And then that was, I don't have a tech background, so it was really difficult for me to follow up and whatnot. And then so I decided that it wasn't really for me on that. But it was quite interesting because building an app that has something to do with a physical outlook and whatnot means that you have to be able to reach out to all the people. So literally going to all the clubs and finding out what they want, what they like, and then implementing it into user experience, and then making and of course, because it's everything from scratch. So I was mostly doing a lot of the financing and like the structure behind it, like how would the flow go, how would the revenue come and whatnot. But decided that anyway, I was just helping a friend. And then I started opening my own restaurants and bars in Jakarta with my sister. I'm not sure if you guys know, but it's called the Kowara Eatery Group, in which we have a few restaurants. Porkeno in Menteng, Rosemary in Kuningan, number 11 bar. And then we have Convivium Restaurant in Panglima Polim. And the last one is Akar in Gunawarman. But yeah, so that was a fun stage of my life. It's well, actually it's still fun now, but restaurant F&B business is not easy. I mean, yes, it's fine. I see a lot of restaurant groups, they're like have so much money, they can just do all this marketing and they have all these people who are so popular and they have all these guests and whatnot. But I guess ours was more like a family business type thing. So we were there all the time. We make the menu together. We even built the chairs, and my mom would sew the apron that the staff would wear. And like there was a time I remember when there was a guest that puked and clogged up the toilet, and I would clean up the toilet. I would clean up the sink. Sorry, clogged up the sink. So I had to clean it up so that it could be used. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is restaurant and F&B is very hands on deck with everything, because that's the nature of entrepreneurship. It's you don't really have a job desk. It's making sure everything runs regardless of what it is. So um, the light goes off the day before, the water is stuck. Okay, well, we're gonna wash the dishes somehow. What do we do? Bring it to our house and wash the dishes and bring it back. That actually happened. So it's a lot of various scenarios that can happen in the restaurant industry. So that was the stage of my restaurant industry. And then afterwards, I worked in my family business, which I'm sure a lot of you probably have that option as well, um, to work in a family business and factories and whatnot. And then I helped because of my background with modeling and consulting and whatnot. So I helped streamline some of the processes that they had in the factory. So from the pricing perspective, costing perspective, and then try to do what are the key aspects that could be done more sustainably. So trying to look into alternative energy sources for the operations. And that's when I found out that there's a lot of waste wood being produced as rejects in the factories. So I saw that as an opportunity, and I pick up the wood and create it and process it again into upcycling wooden toys. So I still have that wooden toys. I have a workshop where I produce wooden toys. I actually hire a few refugees from Afghanistan, although now they've kind of gone off. But yeah, so I'm still doing that. But then afterwards, of course, in the last 2 years, I've been more full on the activism. And I think, as I explained before, it kind of just found me in a sense where I was really trying to, I was panicking. I don't know how many of you have this same anxiety, eco anxiety over what's happening with the world and like, what's the point of living type level. But of course, once you see that it is very fixable, then and you know how to fix it and you know the path, and there's no other way but to jump in and just do whatever it takes to help the situation. And the creativity out of it is so great, and activism is so varied, and the amount of people you work with and the amount of solutions that you can create together as a community, cross country even, is just beautiful. So yeah, I guess, sorry, that was a little jumping. On the activism side, there's the movement side that I'm building with the different movements: Extinction Rebellion, Jedi Claim, Fridays for Future. And then there's the political side, because I mean, the biggest issue of climate crisis is politics, essentially. Really bad policies coming out of governments that work for extractive industries. So it really is, by the end of the day, you need to change the political side as well. So my recently, I've also been involved in building the Green Party of Indonesia. And that's a completely different subset of activities, I suppose. So yeah, I guess I give it back to you, Tiffany. What do you want to listen to? What do you want to hear about more?
Yeah, okay. I think we can discuss both in today's session. I think we would have time to discuss both your business journey and also your activism. So I want to ask first, when did you know you're interested in entrepreneurship? You mentioned that your family had a business, right?
Yeah. So my father was a entrepreneur, so he started the business himself. But I didn't know that at the beginning. No, I wanted to go down the corporate route. And that's why I did the economics management. So I actually thought that I wanted to do entrepreneurship after being in a corporate setting,
Okay.
because it just, yeah.
And so you went to the University of Cambridge and had a degree, MPhil degree focused on management. So how was that like? Is an MPhil degree different from a normal management degree, or is it pretty much the same?
Um, it is pretty much the same. Like, there's no point on having an MPhil degree in management if you have taken management in bachelor. There's no point. Um, and having said that, the reason that I took that MPhil degree, it was not actually fair in a sense that I needed the knowledge, because having taken economics in my bachelor's, I realized there was a lot of overlap. There was a lot of classes that was taught that I already knew about. Um, so I don't actually recommend anyone taking a master's degree in management, because a lot of the skills that you get from the university, the MPhil itself, is one, self-explanatory. Two, you can learn outside of the university, and it's a lot of the things that you learn by doing as
Yeah.
well. But if you need the degree because it'll look good on your CV, then that's a different point, right? It really depends on what it is that you're doing it for.
Okay, so would you say it's better to pick a major that is more like skills based? So, for example, taking computer science or doing that because business can be pretty much self taught.
Correct. Fully agree with that point.
And can you talk a bit more about how was it like studying business? So, was it mainly focused on the theories, or did you have any projects or experiences that were part of the curriculum?
It was a lot of case study based. So all the theories would be attached to real case studies. And then at the end of the year, there was a project that was a real case study. So not a past story. So companies would come to the university and we would be assigned groups in which we have to solve an existing problem. So it is that. But of course, but at the end of the day, it's a 1 year course, so it's really limited. But it is both. It is both.
So, do you wish that you'd taken other majors or other degrees?
Um, there was a lot of parts of my life that I had thought like, oh, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. I wish I would took engineering so I can be an inventor, for example. But um, it's useful. Everything has been very useful. So it's not that I wish of something else.
How did you end up deciding on the economics or the business major? And if you could do this all over again, how would you change your way of picking your major?
It's a good question. I was torn between engineering and economics. I did 4 hires in IB. So I did economics, physics, chemistry, and math. So even before going to university or choosing my university, I had already planned out that there was 2 branches possible. So if I needed engineering, then I would need physics and maths. And actually, economics doesn't even ask for economics to be higher, but I just thought that there'll be like a natural route. And I think what led it in the end, okay, this was a bit not logical, but my dad had actually wanted my sister to go to LSE. So that was my undergrad, London School of Economics. So my dad wanted my, for whatever reasons. And he told me that having economics as a basis is very good. So, and then he passed away. And so I had that stuck in my head. But I actually do recommend economics as a base if you are going down that route, not technical skills. Yeah, if you want to do technical skills, do technical skills. That's so much more valuable, to be honest. But economics gives a very good basis on how to see things from different perspective and the way to break down problems in a biteable size and how to analyze it and really deconstruct an issue in a logical manner so that you can solve it. I think economics give a really good base for that. But in terms of like the management itself, honestly, it was just like a random coincidence because I thought that I was gonna go straight into investment banking after uni, and then I applied to all investment banking, and then my husband, now boyfriend, then was already in Cambridge, and he was like, "Well, if you don't get any job, why don't you just do a master's?" Like, okay, let's just do a master's. So, yeah, sorry, that wasn't as cool as it The reason is you probably like.
No, but that's actually very interesting. Right now, we're almost going into college app season, so soon we're going to be, declaring a major and all that. And I know for a lot of students here, and like for me personally, I am still a bit confused as to what major I should take. So do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, really think about what you like. And if you do have a career path in mind, then obviously you need to prepare for those, right? Like, say, if you're going to be a doctor, then clearly you need to take med school, right? And if you want to be coding and working for that big tech, then maybe computer science is the way to go, right? But if you don't have that level of like certainty what you want to do, I think securing some what's it called, degree that you are interested in is more important.
Okay.
In the end of the day, you're still gonna have to live with it for the next 3 years. Like
Yeah.
it will, you will need to enjoy it. And I would suggest trying to talk to the certain different people that is already in the university or already doing the course and see if it's what you expect to get. So having talked to maybe some alumni or um, yeah, just like reading more experiences, but also the place I think matters a lot. uh, like it really depends on what type of lifestyle you want. Like UK may not be the way you go if you don't want to live more independent, for example, right? Because it's kind of different from the US where everything is more like, actually I have no idea, I've never been, I didn't go to the US, but I know that there's a very different lifestyle depending on what country you go to, and I think that really matters too. And yeah.
So how did you actually choose University of Cambridge? And when you went there, were there any culture shocks that you experienced?
A lot, I guess, culture shock wise, I suppose. It well, Cambridge, honestly, I chose it because it's one of the best universities in the world. Like, and it's Harry Potter living. It's kind of cool. You get the robe. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's just go with this. But in terms of culture shock, I think I think we're all probably from similar backgrounds, right? Quite like privileged backgrounds in the sense that everything has been provided for. So the biggest shock would be to have to adjust to that life, right? Everything you need to take care of yourself. But it's actually really fast to adjust to that because you have no choice. You'll have no choice. And it's, I actually also did some work when I was studying at the same time. So I would earn my own money as well. And that really helps with adjusting so that you appreciate what you get a lot faster than later. Um, but yeah, again, it's having to choose the place as well. I went to London and Cambridge, and both are very international.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a big like Geordie Shore type shock.
And so you also mentioned that you changed a lot of careers over a few years. So was it actually scary to start at a blank slate each time?
It is and it isn't. I guess in one way, it's scary to start from. You know what? No, I never felt it was scary to change. The blank slate was not the scary part. The worrying about leaving the one behind was more scary, I felt. I was worried like whether or not I had left a team with a missing link, for example. And that was worrying. And that's why with every change, I would make sure that I'm still available for a period of time. And I made sure that I have like structured some sort of system that would allow them to go on without me being there, um, or still offer support. But the starting over is more exciting than anything else. It's exciting to be able to start over.
Would you say that all of your experiences and all of your past kind of like changes, does it help you right now in your activism and the stuff that you're doing in terms of like your business?
Yeah, everything helps. I Yeah, not one for spirituality until recently, but honestly, now I see like everything happens for a reason, like everything. And it's funny because you don't really realize it until like years afterward. Um, so Yeah, no, everything helps. From the consulting, they taught me how to use the Excel and modeling and whatnot, and I've been using it ever since. Even to the restaurants, being able to speak to different people, managing expectations, and coordinating between different groups of people is now working for activism. Even to like the toy making experience that I have, I need to have like crafty soft skills, the crafty skills that I need to make like banners and whatnot. Now it's been useful. So everything helps and everything, yeah, it's been useful.
I think in life, usually there's always a safe and a risky option, right? And sometimes people think that pursuing your passion is more of that kind of risky option. So, what do you do if, for example, you do plan to pursue your passion, but then it doesn't end up working out the way you want it to?
Yeah, I mean, it never works out the way you want it to. It always has a tangent. um, and it's fair to say like you need a safer option, sure. um, and it's okay to have both. Yeah, it's absolutely okay to choose both, like if you feel that your passion is not working out and you have backups, that's fine too. And maybe it's smart to have backups. Some people are more obviously privileged than others, that they are able to pursue their passion longer. Um, and perhaps I know some people who take the safe option and then pursue the passion as a side until it looks promising enough to make the jump.
Yeah.
That's also a possibility. So with me, for example, the restaurants that I open, I use the money that I get from earning from the first job that I had. So it's not that I went risky straight away, right? I went really safe straight away from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I jumped to the safer option, and then I jumped to the passion. So I was not passionate about, well, actually that's not true. But I was never like, I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I'm going to be a management consulting. But I think another thing to think about is how to make how to bring out the passion, whatever it is that you do. So I know a lot of people say, do what you like, but the opposite can also be true. You can enjoy what it is that you have to do anyway. So, for example, if you have to uh, clean the toilets, right? If you have to clean the toilets, then you can find passion in that. You can like, oh, you make it fun, Oh, like today I'm gonna be able to break my record of cleaning the mirror and like this, like whatever it is, you can actually find a twist to it. Um, but obviously, if it like kills you inside to do it, then like quit. Like that's definitely not the way to go. But if it's something that you can find joy in doing it, then it could become a passion. Uh, yeah, is that okay as an answer? I'm not sure if it's like making you
Yeah.
more confused.
No, yeah, that's actually a very good way to put it. Yeah. What are some misconceptions you think people have about being an entrepreneur?
I think a lot of people think that you have people that you can hire to solve problems.
Yeah.
And it's true to a certain extent, but hiring is very difficult. That's the most difficult part about entrepreneurship, I think, hiring, getting the right talent. And the another misconception is that an entrepreneur is not the boss. You are not the main guy who can tell everyone to do something else. That is definitely not what an entrepreneur is. And it's not an easy life. People think like, oh, entrepreneur, it's, yeah, you get to, it's chill. You don't work 9 to 5. So it's more chill. You have more things. But maybe that's what happens in the end, when you're already big and you sell off your shares or whatever. But to begin with, it is so much harder than a 9 to 5 job, and you will spend every waking hour thinking about this business and how to fix it. And if you don't think about it like that, maybe it's not for you, because it's literally like a baby, right? You're growing a baby. If you don't give it care, which I've seen a lot of my friends do this, and including some of my business, that we didn't put enough care and it just collapsed. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I think the work days can also go like overtime or up until the weekend because there's just so much things to do and you don't really have a rigid structure as well. For people who want to be an entrepreneur, what skills do you think are the most important for them to have?
Skills, tenacity. No, but seriously, I think being able to have people around you that you can trust, that you can bounce off ideas, is really important. Having a goal, so really the skills to be able to, whatever it is you pivot and tangent, you still have a base Like, what is the values of this thing you're trying to build? What are the important things? And having to be able to stick to that is a really, really difficult thing to do. Because it's so easy to get like somebody offers you this, oh, that sounds cool, let's do that. Like, which happens a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is really important. And the being able to admit that you're wrong is really important. Being able to just, if things don't work out, just admit it. Like, it's okay to be wrong. um, that's really important too. And not being able to, not being so calculative over time. And another thing would be being able to see the bigger picture, and finding, I keep repeating this, but finding the people to be able to help you for different things is really, really crucial. You cannot do everything yourself, but also having to see what you are doing as a baby to be grown collectively with the community or with like the group of friends or group of people that you're going to work with. So not see it as like, this is my baby, you're working for me. I think that's really crucial. Because what the, as an entrepreneur, whatever, however you approach this will shape the culture of the company, and the culture of the company really needs to be a healthy one for a startup or for a fresh company to be in, especially in today's world, because people value more things than money nowadays. So it's really important to be able to bring that culture of like family style working and like appreciating each other, having to be able to listen to others, and incorporating others' ideas, whatever it is, for the collective good, as opposed to being like, I'm a superhero boss. But yeah,
Yeah. So going off of that, what if they do something in a certain way that you're not really comfortable with?
I think it's important to be very transparent about it. So you shouldn't micromanage. And if somebody does something that you don't like, but it's for the better good and it works out, perhaps you should reevaluate whether or not your ways are the correct way. So it really depends on the situation, but you do need to think about it for the greater good. Like, there's no space for ego in entrepreneurship, I feel. Um, of course, there are other you know what, there are ways, different styles of entrepreneurship. I'm sure some people are super egoistic and then they make it whatever, but I don't suggest that, and especially in today's world where we need solidarity more than anything. And yeah, but being able to see things from the collective good is very important, whether or not it's the way you like it. Oh, just needed to add to that. Definitely need to have certain skills, like being able to read a business plan and being able to do budgeting and things. I think that's a basic, but you can learn that from the internet as well, of course. But it's important to know those basics, at least some sort of like cash flow issues and whatnot. Not to the details, but yeah, it's still important to know the basics.
I want to move on and ask you a bit about kind of your sustainability works. So after you figured out that, okay, you're really determined and you're really like willing to help the environment, what are the first steps you did? Because I think a lot of times people want to help, but then they don't know where to start or like how to navigate this very confusing journey.
Yeah, it's super confusing. I mean, yeah, I think I actually started with individual, like looking into my own life, right? I think a lot of people do that as well. Like, how can I contribute in my everyday life, right? Like, I started with my house, like separating the trash, trying to change, putting solar panel at home, electricity, like save electricity, do talks here and there. And then I started with like my restaurant, so started doing like reusable packagings and the takeaways, and then did like composting at home and community composting. So I think it's the easy way is actually to look at your lifestyle, right? Just look at yourself. What is it that you do every day? Are these good or are these bad? Are they alternatives? Are they not? So you can start with that and see, evaluate what you do and what are the alternatives way to make your own life better. But at the end of the day, there's very limited what we can do as individuals. Majority of the emissions that is causing the climate crisis are caused by a systemic injustice. So, for example, most of the emissions actually come from, well, two sectors, right? Energy and land use. The energy sector, um, yes, we can say we can save electricity, right? But in the end of the day, a lot of the cases of energy use is not even from individual energy use. These are, in Indonesia, for example, we have an oversupply of electricity by 60%, 40 to 60% oversupply. And yet we are still building new coal power plants. And the PLN actually have to pay 100% of whatever it is that is in the contract, regardless of usage. So the coal supplier, they just keep making money from these, and then and it's like excess electricity, and well, we're not even using it. And so a lot of the things are like that. It's not our choice. We can save money, we can save electricity, sure, but as a system, they keep producing more emissions without our even like consent. Right? And then same thing with flights. I don't know if you know, but there was a lot of flights in Europe since the pandemic, ghost flights. They just fly anyway, like empty flights, just so that they can keep the slot in their airport. But obviously, it's the crisis. Come on, man. Like, don't fly empty flights. We are all trying our best to not fly even for holidays, right? And then some people are just like, I mean, literally like thousands of empty flights in a year. And it's so ridiculous. But I guess my point is, we need to recognize that the greatest strength for an individual to help with the environment and our survival is actually the power to be able to connect and combine our voices to force and push for a systemic change. So try to reach out to communities and movements. So there's like Fridays for Future, there's Extinction Rebellion, there's Jeda Iklim, and we always have these communities like discussion where people can talk to each other about their anxiety and like share tips and what they can do at home, or share tips what they can do to build a community in their own respective cities. So say like have a communal garden between you and your neighbors where you grow like what's it called, aquaponic, hydroponic, and then share the produce amongst the neighbors and really change the way we live, but also force the justice part onto the government through like strikes or artwork or make music together. Or I mean, activism is fun, so it should be fun. um, yeah.
Yeah, so then for businesses, how can they find that kind of perfect lining between, oh, I want to gain as much profit as possible, but also having sustainable practices in place for their business?
So sustainability is actually cost saving. um, it is actually cost saving if you look at it from a 10-year return point of view. If you look at it from a 1 year, obviously not, because then you have to invest, right? You have to
Yeah.
invest to change your ways. But from the easiest example would be water. If you install a rainwater harvesting system, say at home, right? Then you will never need to pay for pump. You will never need to buy water. If you install the rainwater harvesting system and attach it with a what's it called, water filter for drinking, you will never need to pay for drinking water. And this is the same thing with the companies. So it's been calculated. Actually, it is calculated. If you install solar panels in, well, factories and homes, you can actually make your money back in 7 years. And after 7 years, your electricity is free. For a business, that makes complete sense to install if you have the investment for it.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense. And nowadays, you have a lot of companies willing to invest, and they will pay for your solar panels, and then the factories will just pay that company, that investor, a price lower than the PLN price, but monthly. So it's as if you have a new supplier of electricity, not PLN, but it's the guys who built the solar panel in your factory rooftops. So that's just one example, right? From the energy perspective and the water perspective. But to be sustainable, you are actually lessening your costs, increasing your profit margin. It's just less easy to see. Um, and a lot of the problems is not about being sustainable in that sense. A lot of the problem with sustainability are factories dumping toxic waste, for example, or burning forests to cut costs. But those shouldn't be legal to begin with. And that brings us to my second point, that these unsustainable practices of, say, bad companies, right? They
Yeah.
are actually illegal in most countries, including Indonesia. But what's happening now is that a lot of these bad practices are not being held responsible by the government because the government are not functioning the way they should. Because one, they either don't, they get paid by the company to like turn a blind eye, or two, the shareholders of those big companies are sitting in the DPR seats, or they're the ministers, right? So in Indonesia, 16 out of 30 of the ministers are actually mine owners, um, in the cabinet, today's cabinet. And then 55% of the House of Parliament people are business owners in infrastructure and mining and energy and construction. So, of course, they're going to make rules and bend the laws to fit their businesses to maximize their profits. So what we need is actually a stronger system to manage the legal sides, but also a system change, a change that the people that is causing the most harm to the environment shouldn't be the one making the decisions. Like, of course, if they make the decisions, we will never get out of the climate crisis. Of course, they will make coal green. By the way, in case you didn't know, we our one of our main policies for energy transition in Indonesia is actually making coal green. So, like, it's, I mean, come on, that's a freaking joke. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
it should be easy. Oh, sorry. One more thing. Um, Also, to align that like profit with thing is, it is easy if the government is fully on board with it. For example, imagine if the government makes a policy that every factory that installs solar panels, right, will get a 50% discount in their tax payments for the next 7 years or the next 5 years. Who wouldn't want to do that? Because they're already making money with it. Like, that is already a good investment. With that type of push, it would be so easy. So that is what policymaking should be for. It's to incentivize and incentivize things with positive externality and disincentivize things with negative externalities. But right now, because of this conflict of power, conflict of interest, it's functioned the opposite, right? It gives subsidies and tax breaks to extractive industries, but it punishes like the clean organic farmers, for example. So it's, we need a system change. But yeah,
Okay. So would you say the main problem right now is the government and also pressuring large corporations?
yeah, exactly that. The large corporations are so powerful in policy making. In COP26, the last conference of parties on climate change, we found out that the biggest delegation out of any country, bigger than any country delegation, was the fossil fuel industry companies delegation. So, and they attended that conference, being like the biggest force of negotiation. So, it's kind of clear that our current system, countries or whatever, cross country, UN, World Bank, everything is still very much controlled by the extractive industries, which actively promotes this level of destruction. So, as long as it's still that, um, it'll be very difficult to change. So, we do need to pressure from every side, whatever it is.
This is interesting session. So, Stephanie, maybe you want to say something before we end up the discussion.
There's actually a few questions in
Yeah,
the chat.
I think we can go through a few of them. Is it better to choose a degree that you're passionate about or a degree that is more practical?
Depends on what you want. I think if you already know what you want to do, so say like, you know you're going to be in fashion, do fashion. Like, do it. If you don't know what you're doing, then practical would be the way to go. Um, but I think if you have a passion, go for it, really. It's a very lucky thing to be able to find a passion, so you should really stick to it.
And then do you
And
have
then
any tips for people who are dealing with things like self-doubt?
self-doubt doesn't really go away. I doubt myself every day. But some things, like simple things like self-assurance, like telling yourself that it will be okay, even if it sounds so silly, just saying it out loud, and then speaking to multiple people, it really helps. But also be able to talk it out have friends to you can talk it out, your parents or whatever, and in the end of the day, it will be okay. It really will. Things always work out. And if you need to talk to, like, if you want to talk to me, for example, feel free to reach out. Um, and then there's always like self affirmation that you can do, like write things down and like, oh, I can do this, whatever. And so yeah, again, like self doubt will never go away because it's a human nature to doubt yourself. But I think it's also important to plot what you are going to do about it to dispel the doubt. So like, oh, I don't think I'm going to work out. Like, okay, then let's figure out certain ways how to make that not happen. That you're doubting. So it really is about like, okay, acknowledging the doubt, but also acting on it, talking about it, planning to dispel it, planning ahead to be able to have the hope. And hope is always there. Yeah. If you can think of it, it's possible to happen. The world is full of hope, and the better world is coming. We just need to work towards it.
Okay, and then another question we have is, would you recommend people to work for their family business right away, or try to make it on your own and work for someone else first?
I actually do suggest working for someone else first. A lot of the times, family business is quite rigid, and being able to learn from a structured company would help be able to see what is the different management styles out there, what are the different methods and methodology, like systematic ways to run a business. I do suggest working for someone else, especially if that someone else is like a international company that is really well managed with really strict SOPs that you don't necessarily have to copy, but you can learn from and adapt to the family business. And yeah, I think it really matters. Making it on your own, honestly, it's, if you want, you can. It's not a must. Don't let that be like a requirement. Like, oh, you got to look successful in front of people. You got to make it on your own. Like, it really shouldn't be that way. Definition of making it is very different. Changing your family business into a something else is making it in my books. So it really depends on your situation and what you feel drawn to, and trust your gut. Really trust your gut.
Okay, I think we will end the session here. Thank you so much, Miss Melissa, for coming and for enlightening us today about your work. Thank you also for all of the students who came today to the session. I hope that the session has been fruitful for all of you and has inspired you all to keep working hard for your goals. Now you guys can go on to the next session. The schedule will all be in the Firefly page. For Miss Melissa, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much, Miss Melissa.
Thanks all. Good luck with
Thank
everything.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.